Welcome back to Magic Muggle, a Harry Potter after show broadcasting from the highest tower in Hogwarts. I'm your resident Ravenclaw, Eric Cicada, aka Mr. Honest, and today we are officially entering Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Book 5 in the series. It's been a blast so far, covering the series up to this point, and as I've mentioned before through many episodes, this is about the point where my childhood attention drifted from the books to the movies. So finally learning the full story right from the text, it's very, very exciting. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Immediately, the air is different. This does not open like Sorcerer's Stone. It does not open with the typical whimsy, owls, letters, candles, or wonder. It opens with heat. Dry lawns, dusty cars, a hosepipe ban, dead silence on Privet Drive. And Harry Potter is lying in a flower bed outside of number 4, hiding under the willow like a spy, trying to listen to the Muggle news. And that image alone says so much about where we are right now in the series. Harry is not waiting for Hogwarts anymore in that innocent, excited way. He's waiting for a disaster. He remembers the graveyard, and it haunts him, it seems, a lot with just the way he acts in these first 2 chapters. He's listening to the news because he knows Lord Voldemort is back, and he's expecting the world to start showing signs of it. A strange disappearance, a mysterious accident, something the Muggles won't understand, but Harry will. But instead, he gets baggage handlers, drought reports, celebrity divorce, and a water skiing budgie. Honestly, that's a really clever opening because the world feels normal to everyone else. Privet Drive is still Privet Drive. Vernon is still complaining. Petunia is still pretending nothing magical exists. Dudley is supposedly out having tea with friends, which really means he's probably vandalizing something or beating up a smaller kid, which just is a part that Dudley really slides into pretty well. But Harry is living in a completely different emotional reality. He's seen Voldemort return. He watched Cedric Diggory die. He was tied to a tombstone, and he fought for his life in a graveyard. And now, just like magic, he's back in the suburbs, being treated like the problem. That is such a brutal emotional reset, because Harry isn't just bored here. He's isolated, he's angry, he's traumatized, and nobody is telling him anything. Ron and Hermione are writing vague letters. Sirius is telling him to keep his nose clean. Dumbledore is completely silent, and the Daily Prophet still isn't reporting the truth. So Harry is stuck in this awful in-between place where he knows the war has started, but everyone else is acting like he's supposed to sit quietly and wait. And that's where the book begins, not with adventure, but with abandonment. Harry is physically at Privet Drive, but emotionally, he's still in that graveyard. And we see that in the way his thoughts spiral. I could definitely relate to the spiraling thoughts. So he keeps wondering why Ron and Hermione are together without him, why they're busy and he isn't, why nobody thinks he deserves to know anything. And underneath all that anger is this deeper wound. Did they forget what happened to me? And I think that's important because Harry's anger in this book can be intense. It can be uncomfortable, but here, right at the beginning, the book gives us the source of it. This is not random teenage moodiness. This is a 15-year-old boy who survived something horrifying, told the truth, was ignored by the government, abandoned by the adults who know more than he does, and then sent back to live with the people who hate him. That's not attitude. That's pressure. And pressure is the whole mood of these opening chapters. The heat, the silence, the waiting, the lack of news, the lack of answers. Everything is building. Then Harry hears a crack, and immediately he reacts like someone on edge. He jumps up, wand out, ready. He thinks it might be someone apparating or disapparating, maybe Dobby, maybe someone magical, maybe finally, a sign that the world he belongs to hasn't completely forgotten him. But Vernon grabs him through the window and starts choking him because he's more worried about the neighbors seeing a wand than about Harry being okay. I mean, we can't be too surprised, but Vernon is Vernon. I don't think he's going to change in a weird, sick way up until he's suffocating Harry like Homer to Bart Simpson. We kind of actually hate him again, but I kind of like going back to the Dursleys. It's just a great contrast to Hogwarts, something almost like ritually for the books to go back to the Dursleys and see them as well. It's bittersweet because we don't like what they're doing to Harry, but we also kind of like the complexity. At least I do. I like the complexity of like being super known and having your own full life at a place you feel safe. That safeness being taken away, and then now maybe finding a little bit of comfort in what he has as a home on the off season of Hogwarts, just completely caving in on him. And you let yourself forget about the horrible things and the way that they treat him, but it is honestly the same. But Harry's not the same. That's Privet Drive in one image. A magical war could be starting, and Vernon's first instinct is, what will number 7 think? And after that, Harry storms off. He walks through Little Whinging, and we get one of the most emotionally important stretches in the chapter. He thinks about Ron, Hermione, Sirius, and the Burrow. The vague letters, the birthday presents he threw away in anger and then regretted because Aunt Petunia gave him a sad salad for dinner. And that detail's funny, but it's also sad. Harry is angry enough to reject love, but hungry enough and lonely enough to regret it. That feels painfully real. And then he reaches the playground and Dudley appears with his gang. Now Dudley has changed too. He's still Dudley, but now he's a boxing champion. Vernon calls it the noble sport, which is hilarious because Dudley is basically using boxing as a professional development course in bullying. He and his gang are terrorizing younger kids, and Harry knows it. He knows Dudley beat up a kid named Mark Evans. And Harry, he wants a fight. That's another detail I don't want to skip over. Harry sits there hoping Dudley and his friends will notice him. He wants them to come at him. He wants an excuse to vent. And it's kind of a little worrisome to see that Harry is pretty much on the edge of actually using magic against the law before he does in a few moments. And again, that matters because it shows how full of anger he is. He's not in a healthy place. He's looking for an outlet. He knows he shouldn't use magic, and he knows it would be reckless. But emotionally, he wants something to hit back against. Eventually, Harry catches up to Dudley alone, and we get this nasty little cousin confrontation. Harry mocks the nickname Big D. He brings up all the baby names Petunia calls Dudley, and then Dudley tries to act tough, but Harry pushes back. And at first, it almost feels like classic Harry and Dudley stuff. Mean, petty, funny, and familiar. But then Dudley says something that cuts deeper than usual. He says he heard Harry talking in his sleep. And suddenly, this is just not that funny to Harry anymore because Dudley heard Harry having nightmares about Cedric. He heard Harry begging for Cedric not to be killed. He heard Harry calling for his mom and dad. And Dudley weaponizes it. That is such a cruel moment, and it tells us Harry is not just occasionally remembering the graveyard. He is reliving it at night, out loud, badly enough that Dudley can hear him from the other room. This is trauma leaking through the walls, and Harry snaps. He points his wand directly at Dudley's heart, and for 1 second you understand how much rage is in him. Not because Harry is evil, not because Harry actually wants to become cruel, but because Dudley finds the one wound Harry cannot laugh off. Cedric's death. His parents. His helplessness. And then the whole world goes dark. The stars suddenly vanish. The street lamps vanish. The warmth disappears. The sound drains out of the world. And Harry knows, before he sees them, what's coming. Dementors. And Little Whinging. That is such a shocking choice, because Dementors belong to the wizarding world. They belong to Azkaban, Hogwarts, the train, the lake. They do not belong in a suburban alley between Magnolia Crescent and Wisteria Walk. Yes, we've done our research on these blocks. And that collision of worlds is terrifying. Harry's 2 lives are not separate anymore. The darkness has followed him home. And the scene itself is intense because Harry is both responsible and vulnerable. Dudley punches him. Harry loses his wand. Dudley runs in the wrong direction, and Harry has to find his wand in total darkness while Dementors are closing in. And when he finally casts the Patronus, it doesn't work at first. That matters too, because Harry already learned this spell. We remember how triumphant it felt in Prisoner of Azkaban. The stag was this huge victory. It was Harry saving himself, saving Sirius. It was finding power in the memory of his father and the truth about Sirius. But here, he struggles. He's too empty. He's too panicked. He's too drained. The Dementor gets close enough that Harry hears Voldemort's voice in his head. That line about bowing to death is chilling. And Harry cannot find happiness until he thinks of Ron and Hermione. I like how from our perspective, the graveyard kind of echoes in our mind too. We don't get like cutaways to what Voldemort's doing. Like in some stories, we see the villain's perspective. We only really stick with Harry's point of view through the whole series, which is just a fantastic choice. I like the mystery of Voldemort. I like wondering, is that Harry making up his voice in Voldemort's voice in his head, or is that really Voldemort trying to get Harry to give into the darkness? Personally, I think it is Voldemort. He knows how to reach Harry in times of peril, it seems. And thinking about his friends is the real spark. Not the glory, not victory, not revenge, his friends. And then the stag comes. The Patronus erupts, drives off the first Dementor, and Harry sends it after the second one, saving Dudley just before the Dementor's kiss. They were going to kill Dudley. That wouldn't have looked good on Harry. Seems like that's what maybe was wanted to happen. However this managed to happen, really not a good look for Harry either way. And that is a huge moment because Harry saves Dudley. Not because Dudley deserves it, not because Dudley would have done the same, not because Harry gets anything out of it, but Harry saves him because Harry is Harry. And immediately after this enormous heroic act, Mrs. Figg runs in wearing carpet slippers, carrying a clanking shopping bag, screaming at Harry not to put his wand away, and threatening to kill Mundungus Fletcher. Welcome to Order of the Phoenix, where trauma and comedy are apparently arriving at the same owl basket. Chapter 2, A Peck of Owls, picks up right there. And the first massive reveal is that Mrs. Figg knows exactly what Dementors are. Harry thinks she might be a witch, but she corrects him. She's a squib, similar to the groundskeeper. What's his name? Filch. She can't do magic because she's been watching him on Dumbledore's orders. That recontextualizes so much. All those miserable visits Harry had to go to Mrs. Figg's house as a kid, the stale cake, the cats, the boring afternoons, she was part of the guard around him. And what's so amazing about all this is if you go back, she is present very subtly in the background of the earlier books. And I love that. See, it's something I completely would overlook. I didn't fully remember Mrs. Figg. You know, I had to even look up, is Mrs. Figg new? And are they like kind of retconning this? But no, they had this, Rowling had this in the background. It's been set up. Mrs. Figg even admits that she had to make it unpleasant for Harry because the Dursleys would never have let him go if there were any thought of him enjoying it. That is funny, but it's also very heartbreaking. Harry had protection nearby for years, and it had to be disguised as neglect. And then we meet Mundungus Fletcher, who was supposed to be on duty watching Harry, but left to look into stolen cauldrons. Incredible dirtbag energy. Mrs. Figg beating him with a bag full of cat food is one of those scenes where I could see fully the animation in my head. Like, this is not elegant wizard war strategy. This is a furious squib in slippers assaulting a criminal with cat supplies because he abandoned his post during a Dementor attack. And through all this, we learned something important. Dumbledore did not forget Harry. Harry has been watched. But that doesn't fully comfort him because from Harry's perspective, being watched is not the same as being included. It's not the same as being spoken to. It's not the same as being trusted. And that tension is going to matter. Harry drags Dudley home, and the Dursleys react the exact way we completely expect them to. Petunia panics over Dudley. Vernon thinks he's been mugged. Dudley vomits on the doormat, and Harry tries to sneak upstairs, but Dudley just says one word, him. And now Harry is in the kitchen, accused of attacking Dudley. Before Harry can explain, the first owl arrives. This is where the chapter title really starts paying off. The first letter is from the Ministry saying Harry performed the Patronus charm in a Muggle area in front of a Muggle. And because of that, he has been expelled from Hogwarts. Ministry representatives are coming to destroy his wand, and that he has to attend a disciplinary hearing. That is insane. Not, we've received a report. Not, please explain what happened. Not, are you alive? Just, you're expelled and your wand is getting snapped. Report to court. And this is our first real look into this book at how dangerous the Ministry can be. Because the Ministry knows magic happened, but they do not know or care why. They're not asking why 2 Dementors were in Little Whinging. They're not asking why Harry had to defend himself. They're treating the victim like a criminal. And this is one major theme of the Order of the Phoenix. Institutions protecting themselves before protecting people. Harry panics, understandably, and he thinks Hogwarts is gone. His wand is about to be destroyed, so his first instinct is to run. And I love the moment where Harry basically tells Vernon, the madhouse has chucked me out so I could do whatever I like. That is darkly funny. Vernon has spent years banking on the rule that Harry can't use magic outside of school. And now Harry's like, good news, sir, I have nothing left to lose. Then the second owl arrives. This one is from Mr. Weasley, and it tells Harry that Dumbledore has arrived at the Ministry and is trying to sort it out. It gives Harry 3 commands. Do not leave the house, do not do more magic, and do not surrender your wand. And that creates this perfect pressure trap. I'd love to see how fast Dumbledore can act on Harry's behalf, even when he seems like he's not there for him. This is the exact proof that Dumbledore has Harry in his forefront thoughts, and he's not ignoring him. He's trying to keep him safe. Harry is told to stay exactly where he is in the house where he's hated, while the government may be coming to break his wand. And then the Dursleys start questioning him. This is where we get one of the most fascinating parts of the chapter. Dudley trying to explain what the Dementor did to him. He says everything went dark. He heard things in his head. He felt cold, horrible cold. And then Harry supplies that feeling, like you'll never be happy again. And Dudley says yes. This is a really interesting moment because for once Harry and Dudley understand the same feeling. Not the same life, not the same trauma, but the same Dementor effect. And Harry even wonders what Dudley heard. What is the worst memory of someone who has been spoiled, protected, and praised his whole life? The book doesn't answer that yet, but it plants the question. Then, one of the biggest reveals in these 2 chapters, Vernon asks what Dementors are, and Aunt Petunia answers, they guard the wizard prison Azkaban. I always say it differently. There's just silence after this. That line changes the room, because Mrs. Figg knowing about Dementors is surprising. But Aunt Petunia knowing, that is different. Petunia has spent Harry's entire life acting like magic is disgusting nonsense, like Lily's world was something she erased completely. But here we learn that she remembers. She heard that awful boy telling Lily about Dementors years ago. And Harry assumes she means James, but what matters right now is not even who she means. It's really that Petunia has carried this information for decades. She didn't forget. She chose denial. That is such a big character detail. And it wasn't in the movies, which intrigues me. I think this is a storyline that might have been too much for the movie that already had a lot going for it. This is the type of stuff that we could see fleshed out in the Harry Potter series where they have more time to tell the stories of the books. Petunia is not ignorant. She isn't avoidant. She built her whole life around pretending the magical world does not exist, but the knowledge is still in there, buried, bitter, and waiting. Then, another owl arrives. The Ministry revises its decision. Harry's wand will not be destroyed immediately. His expulsion will be decided at the hearing. He is now suspended pending further inquiry. So, in about 20 minutes, Harry has gone from expelled to not exactly expelled to pending trial. And the comedy of the owls is brilliant because it's happening in the middle of genuine crisis. Vernon is losing his mind. Owls through the window, owls hitting the glass, owls through the fireplace, ministry letters, Arthur's letters, Sirius's letters. It's like the wizarding world has turned number 4 Privet Drive into a chaotic post office. And Vernon keeps trying to keep control of his house, but every owl is proof that he has no control at all. Then Sirius sends a message, and Harry expects answers, maybe Dumbledore level answers, maybe an explanation of why the Dementors showed up, or what the Ministry is doing, what happens next. Instead, Sirius basically says, Arthur told us what happened. Don't leave the house. That's it. And Harry is furious. Because again, no one says, well done. No one says, you fought off 2 Dementors by yourself. No one says or asks, are you okay? Everybody is just focused on containment. And I think this is one of the most emotional keys to Harry in this book because he doesn't just want information. He wants recognition. He wants someone to acknowledge the weight he's carrying. He wants someone to say, you survived something impossible and we see you. But what he keeps getting is stay inside, stay quiet, don't act, don't move. And then Vernon asks the obvious question, why were there Dementors in Little Whinging? Harry doesn't know. But Vernon's accusation suddenly pushes Harry toward the real question. Why would Dementors be there? Was it Voldemort? Did the Ministry lose control of them? Or were they sent? And Harry says Voldemort's name in the Dursleys' kitchen. That alone is surreal. We are standing in this aggressively normal room, clean counters, fridge, television, Petunia's kitchen. And suddenly, Harry is talking about Voldemort being back. And the wall between the worlds break. Vernon remembers that Voldemort is the one who murdered Harry's parents. Petunia goes pale, and then Harry notices something he has never really seen before. Petunia understands what Voldemort's return means. For the first time, Harry sees his aunt not just as Aunt Petunia, not just as Vernon's wife or Dudley's mother, but as Lily's sister. That is huge, because Petunia hated Lily's magic, resented it, rejected it, but she still knew. She still lived adjacent to that world, still lost a sister to Voldemort. And for one brief second, Harry and Petunia share fear. Not affection, not healing, not forgiveness, but recognition. And then Vernon ruins it, obviously, because Vernon Dursley is constitutionally incapable of letting a meaningful emotional moment breathe. He decides Harry has to leave, and this is terrifying because Harry has just been told twice not to leave the house. But Vernon is done. He lists every magical disaster that has ever humiliated him. Owls, exploding pudding, Dudley's tail, Marge floating to the ceiling, personal favorite of mine, and the flying Fort Anglia. I have a shirt with that on it. It's very cool. And underneath all of it is the same thing Vernon has always wanted. He wants Harry gone. He wants the problem removed. And then the 5th owl arrives. But this one is different. It's a howler. And it is addressed to Petunia. Not Harry, not Vernon, Petunia. And that alone is chilling. Because suddenly the magical world is not just contacting Harry. It's reaching directly into Petunia's life. She opens it and the voice says, "Remember my last, Petunia." Probably much louder than that. That's it. One sentence. But what a sentence. It implies history, a previous message, a warning, a promise, a magical arrangement that Petunia understands and Harry does not. And that is the cliffhanger that changes everything. Petunia goes pale, she trembles. Vernon has no idea what's happening, and Harry has no idea what's happening. Dudley is just sitting there like his entire worldview just got hit by a truck. And then Petunia says Harry has to stay. She covers it with her usual excuse. The neighbors will talk, but we know that's not the real reason. The howler worked. Dumbledore, or whoever sent that message, just reminded Petunia of something powerful enough to override Vernon. And the chapter ends with Harry asking questions and Petunia refusing to answer. Who sent it? Are you in touch with the wizards? Remember the last what? and she shuts him down. So these first 2 chapters, they do something really impressive. They start with Harry feeling forgotten. They reveal he has been watched. They start with Privet Drive feeling separate from the magical war. Then Dementors invade Little Whinging. They start with Petunia pretending she knows nothing. Then she reveals she knows about Azkaban, Voldemort, and some mysterious prior message. They start with the Ministry as a distant bureaucracy. Then the Ministry becomes an immediate threat. And they start with Harry desperate for news. By the end, he has too much news, and none of it makes him feel safe or makes full sense. That is a brilliant opening, because Order of the Phoenix is not just going to be about Voldemort coming back. It's going to be about truth being suppressed, about institutions failing, about adults withholding information, about trauma being misunderstood, and about Harry being treated as unstable when he's actually the one who's seeing reality clearly. And honestly, that makes this opening feel darker than almost anything before it. The monster is back, yes. But the scariest thing in these chapters might be that Harry tells the truth, saves a life, uses the only spell that could protect him, and the first official response is punishment. That's the world we're entering now. The wonder is still here. The magic is still here. The humor is still here. I mean, Mundungus being attacked with cat food and Vernon screaming about owls is peak chaos. But the innocence is gone. Harry Potter is no longer waiting for Hogwarts to rescue him from Privet Drive. Now the war has found him in Privet Drive, and nobody is explaining why. And that's where we begin, but where we end this episode. This book is sure to unveil a lot more information. You're going to hear a lot more genuine excitement out of me. I mean, I do remember the book in broad strokes, and I've seen the movie. But I got to say, just starting this book makes me want to sit down and read the whole thing, which I don't do. I read kind of for each episode separately in separate moments so we can break them down at a microscopic level. That's what we love doing here at Magic Muggle, a Harry Potter after show. So I hope you like the new podcast art. I am in love with it. A little bit darker, kind of matching the tone of this book. We have a Discord server. It's for Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show, my other podcast, and also Magic Muggle. Everything Honest related. Love to have you there. Chat about these chapters. Talk a little bit about Harry Potter or anything that is on your mind. Join us. And rate the show. Give it 5 stars. Give it a thumbs up. Leave a review. It makes the biggest difference in the world. And seriously, thank you for listening. I know you're out there, and it means the world to me. And with all that, until next week, wands down, hearts full.